Guys, Bungie flew me out from London all the way to Seattle to play the final shape. Yeah, Bungie was kind enough to grant me early access to Destiny's most anticipated expansion to date, and I'm going to share everything I learned during my 2 days of playing through this content. But before we delve into the juicy details, and trust me, we're going to cover a lot here, here's a quick overview of what's coming up, and don't worry, there's no narrative spoilers. Let's start with the Pale Heart, the huge new destination inside the Traveler. It's bursting with secret activities, brand new Pale Heart guns, an entirely new way to grind loot, a new destination activity, Overthrow, in which you'll encounter a new enemy race, the Dread, and a whole heap of what I can only describe as deadly minigames scattered across this strange landscape. And of course a new campaign which you can play a normal or legendary difficulty. I got to play numerous missions within the Pale Hearts, and there's always something utterly bizarre to discover, something that leads you further down the rabbit hole, which is actually an apt analogy because this new destination is just as crazy, just as hallucinogenically mind-boggling as Alice in Wonderland. The art team went full-on crazy mode, and it's a joy to behold. I also got to play with 13 new final shape exotics, 4 exotic weapons, and 9 exotic armor pieces. Now, some of these weapons go hard, especially Kvostov, and you'll see exactly why in this video. And then there's the new Prismatic subclass that changes everything. This isn't hollow hyperbole, it's a game changer. A subclass that mashes together the best abilities from all your other light and darkness subclasses into one godly build, plus a new exotic class item that steals exotic perks from other classes. Bungie has ripped up the rulebook here and blurred the boundaries between light and dark. Yes, it's broken, and yes, the scope for crazy builds just got super silly, so buckle up and enjoy the ride while I break down my time with a final shape. Let's effing well do this. Okay, so let's break down some of the new stuff you'll find in the Pale Heart, starting with Pathfinder, a new way to earn loot. Now, by completing specific objectives in the Pale Heart, you'll unlock nodes on this Pathfinder chart. That kind of rhymed. These nodes form a path to the sweet, precious loot at the end. Simply click on the big shiny engram to collect your rewards, but we ain't done yet, because you now have the option to reset the Pathfinder with Glimmer and begin the grind again. Now, upon your second completion, you'll unlock a new exotic, and yeah, you can keep on resetting for XP, vendor reputation, and engrams. Now, let's talk about some of the mysterious secrets you'll uncover while exploring the Pale Heart. This place is packed with them. Now, I stumbled across this odd scene. A subjugator trapped inside a bubble. Now, upon closer inspection, I saw that he was attacking a ghost who was also just chilling inside this bubble with him. And as you can see, the subjugator is going crazy, unleashing his stasis abilities upon this trapped ghost. And this is just one of the many odd things I encountered inside the Pale Heart. And here's another. Again, I just randomly bumped into this mysterious device while patrolling. Now, whatever this thing is, it needs psionic insight to activate it. So how do you gain this? Well, nearby, there is a constant enemy spawn of Taken Scion. Killing these gives you a timed buff, psionic insight. Now, if you return to the device with this buff, you then have the ability to interact with it by rotating it. And here's something else I discovered. Scattered around the Pale Heart are these special chests. Now, each of these chests has a unique objective you need to complete in order to open it. In this case, passing through these columns of light before the timer runs out. Once complete, I opened the chest and I was rewarded with a very interesting consumable that led me to yet another hidden secret. Like I said before, down the rabbit hole we go. Next up, the new Pale Heart patrol activity, Overthrow. Now, the idea here is simple. Wipe out enemy forces that have gathered across the Pale Heart. Now, there are 3 levels and an end boss to take on, and progress is made by racking up kills and completing the activities you'll encounter all across the map. I'm going to quickly show you a complete run. In this activity, I'm killing enemies, some of which drop laser cannons needed to destroy the Taken Blight in this area. And once destroyed, it gives birth to a massive Taken Ogre. Now, killing this ogre grants you a big chunk of Overthrow progress, and you get a chest too. Next up, a Destiny classic. Enemies that you kill in this activity drop motes. You need to dunk these motes in this rift, and once you've dunked enough motes, you'll summon a boss. And here he is, Roge the Subjugator of Greed. Once you defeat him, you'll get another chest and another nice chunk of Overthrow progress. Now, the sword I'm using here is False Idols, a new legendary solar sword with a deadly spin attack. Stick around to see all the new exotic guns and more legendary Pale Heart weapons in action. Now, as soon as I completed the moat dunking activity, I was instantly thrown into another more intense encounter. The area became smothered in darkness. The goal is to cleanse this darkness. How? Well, certain enemies drop orbs that can be picked up and thrown at the Taken Blights that are scattered around this area. And as you can see, it gets rather intense. I think Bungie has increased enemy density. Thankfully, the Hunter's new Storm's Edge Super is very effective at taking out large large groups of hostiles. And yes, we'll be looking at all the new final shape supers later in this video, and honestly, they are some of the best supers in the game now, all of which can be used with the new Prismatic subclass. And yes, as you'll see, things get a little broken. Now, killing enemies isn't the only way to progress the Overthrow activity. I discovered another special chest while looking for hostile enemies to destroy. This objective also involves purging the surrounding area of blights. Now, once you step into the pool of light next to the chest, you'll automatically enter a third-person view. Now, this buff purifies any darkness that you walk over, and you guessed it, you need to cleanse all the blights in the surrounding area before your timer runs out. It's actually quite a satisfying little mini-game, and once completed, you get another chunk of progress towards the Overthrow activity. So then, once you've racked up enough kills, mini-activities, and chests to pass level 3, you'll summon a boss. Now, it's worth noting that I've only shown a tiny fraction of all the Overthrow activities you'll encounter across the Pale Heart's massive map. Anyway, once I defeated this guy, I got a fat loot drop, a weapon, 2 Traveler's Blessings mods, which grant you powerful buffs, and a luminescent seed, which resonates when near certain objects in the Pale Heart. Right, we're now going to look at all 13 final shape exotics, starting with the Hunter's new armor pieces. This is Gifted Conviction. I love this exotic. Activating Ascension, that's the new arc aspect, or Tempest Strike throws bouncing explosives at nearby targets that jolt and damage them. Jolting nearby targets grants you damage resistance. Yeah, both the new Fragment and this new exotic that buffs it are amazing. Super effective against mobs of enemies below you. It also complements aggressive gameplay where you just want to jump into the fray, and no one sees this thing coming too, so it also adds an element of surprise to your PvP game. I love this thing. Next up, Balance of Power. Your Threaded Spectre has increased duration and durability, and damaging it releases additional threadlings. While near your Threaded Spectre, you do not appear on the radar. And here's the new Hunter class item, the first ever exotic to roll with 2 random exotic perks. Now, it's worth noting that these perks only activate when used alongside the Prismatic subclass, as if Prismatic wasn't OP enough. Next up, Titan exotics, and this is Hazardous Propulsion. Now, Bungie's clearly been sipping on the silly juice with this one. Precision hits or final blows gives your class ability rockets, so if you pop a shield, it fires a barrage of rockets, and damaging enemies with these rockets increases damage dealt with any rocket launcher. So yeah, can we relax now? Good lord. Next up, Wishful Ignorance. Gain an additional Frenzied Blade charge. Frenzied Blade and Fletcher Storm briefly increase their damage with each strike. Pulses from your Banner of War return melee energy based on the number of allies healed. Next up, Stoicism, the Titan's exotic class item. Honestly, the final shape is just gonna be crazy. It's time for Warlocks. This is definitely contender for silliest exotic name, Mateo Doxia, I think that's what it's called. So, enemies hit with arcane needles are suspended. Killing suspended enemies causes them to explode and grants you melee energy. Landing all your needles on a single target triggers a larger, more powerful explosion. Now, your arcane needles are also very effective against barrier champions. Next up, Speaker's Sight. Healing grenades spawn a restorative turret, and healing allies occasionally spawns an orb of power. And here's the Warlock's exotic class item, Solipsism. Moving on to exotic guns, Red Death is back, and you can get it from the first rank of the paid season pass. Now, this was my go-to back in the D1 days. Welcome back. So, final blows with this weapon cure you and increase reload speed. Reloading after final blows also cures nearby allies. And get this, simply dealing damage with Red Death increases handling and movement speed and reduces flinch. And when you're low on health, this gun deals additional damage. Next up, the exotic trace rifle, Microcosm. Now, this sits in your heavy slot but deals kinetic damage, which, as I'll explain, is very useful when you're using the Prismatic subclass. So then, like I said, this trace rifle fires a beam of kinetic light, dealing massive bonus damage to shields. Now, final blows with this weapon also grant super energy, and you gain bonus damage once your super expires. Now, the reason kinetic damage is useful when you've got your Prismatic subclass equipped is because kinetic damage quickly fills your Prismatic meter, which when full allows you to become transcendent. And look, I'm doing that right now. Transcendence is basically a second mini super, which we'll look at in all its glory later in this video. Tis truly a thing of beauty. Next up, the exotic auto rifle Kvostov. Now, I use this exotic the most during my session at Bungie. It's simply a rock solid weapon. So yeah, every 7th bullet from this weapon deals additional damage and ricochets to nearby enemies. Now, if you collect an orb of power, these bouncy bullets deal more damage and ping between even more targets, and you can actually shoot orbs of power to pick them up. And if you shoot an ammo brick, you automatically reload all your equipped weapons. It's just a fun time. Next up, the exotic sniper rifle Still Hunt, aka the Golden Gun Sniper Rifle, aka the Cade 6 Boomstick. If you thought only hunters could fire off golden gun shots, think again. Then, this weapon has its own super bar called Cade's Retribution. Every time you pick up an orb of power or you score a precision hit with this weapon, you fill the super bar. And when completely full, you can fire off 3 golden gun shots. Now, it takes about 7 precision hits to fill the meter before you gain your golden gun shots, and then away you go. And while in golden gun mode, you gain increased target acquisition, aim down sight speed, and flinch resistance. It's basically a portable super. Okay, it's now time to talk about the new Prismatic subclass, becoming Transcendent, the new final shape supers, and how all these combine to break the game. Now, like I said at the start of the video, the new Prismatic subclass changes everything. You now have the power to combine light and darkness abilities. If it sounds OP, that's because it is. It's like a compilation of all the best bits from every subclass, plus some new ones rolled into one godly build, and you can mix and match these abilities. Now, Prismatic also allows you to achieve Transcendence. This is basically a second mini super. Now, you fill your Prismatic meter, that's the pink meter below your regular yellow super meter, by dealing light and dark damage. And here's a tip: kinetic damage generates both light and dark energy, so it's an effective way of quickly filling your Prismatic meter, and once full, you can activate Transcendence. It's the only way you can destroy enemies with Transcendent shields, but it also turns you into a killing machine. Now, while Transcendent, you gain a powerful Prismatic grenade, your abilities generate faster, and defeating targets increases its duration. And you can even pop your regular super while Transcendent. That's 2 simultaneous supers, a mix of light and darkness abilities, and a new exotic class item with 2 exotic perks that further enhance your powers. This is why Prismatic is broken, and this is why you're gonna love it. So then, what are my final thoughts on the final shape? Well, having played through the numerous campaign missions, explored the Pale Heart, completed a run of the new Overthrow activity, the new Strike, played with the new exotic weapons and armor pieces, not to mention the new Prismatic subclasses, plus a whole heap of things I'm not allowed to reveal here, I can safely say this is right up there with the best content Bungie has ever released. And guys, if you enjoyed the video, please do thumbs up and subscribe, because there's more final shape content coming your way. Speak soon, my friends.